make sure you're subscribed to JerCrispy.
What's up, y'all? It's your host that does the most. JerCrispy, welcome back to that video. Yeah. I don't know. I had a feeling that I did not say that intro. Like, it's your host that does the most. JerCrispy. I don't know what I'm saying. But hey, today we got the high school kid took over the NBA. Well, how high school kids took over the NBA. Well, yeah, I got it right the first time. Yeah, how high school kids took over. Blah, blah. Let's go. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, follow our social media. It's going to pop up on the screen. We're on the road to 500. Now, let's get it.
What up? Am I still rolling?
My beeper is beeping, so let me quick pause as I grab the microphone. It's for all of y'all.
Presenting for the seats where Rosa Parks sat. Malcolm X was shot when Coach Luka was popped.
There was a moment when teenagers didn't just dream about the NBA, they took it over.
That almost broke the board. Rebound by Corey Harris, had it thrown out by Kevin Garnett.
Not today, I'm sorry.
And for a few incredible years, the league was being shaken by kids who were barely old enough to vote. At this time, the ultimate gamble became normal. The ideal draft prospect wasn't the polished four-year college star anymore. Hell, it wasn't even a one-and-done.
I ain't lying to you. I think they need to low-key bring that back. Draft some dudes off of the high school. Not low-key. I think like in 20, 30-ish, I feel like they should start like drafting kids back. Because like, let's be real, everybody's not making a starting five in college as their freshman year or sophomore year. Well, at best, sophomore year at best, you make it in your sophomore year. But like, imagine you just seeing like before this was still going on. Bronny, Mikey straight went to the NBA. Buku people that were supposed to go to the NBA, like kids, and they drafting up other kids that like average this amount of points and thinking they could go to the NBA and go down. Like, I'm telling you.
The perfect prospect wasn't the guy who proved he could win on the biggest stage. It was the kid who hadn't even made it yet. The NBA stopped waiting for players to grow up, and instead started meeting them where they were at. The dream of pulling a kid straight out of Algebra 2 and dropping them under the brightest lights in the world might sound like a ridiculous gamble that only the craziest teams would dare to make. And that's because it was.
Stolen by Brandon Weems.
William Blanks, cross half court, taken away by Kobe.
LeBron James. That nigga 41 years old.
Bryant, who is going to go the distance up and slams it home.
All of a sudden, NBA scouts weren't sitting in padded seats in the Duke Arena. They were shoulder to shoulder in sweaty high school gyms in cities they couldn't even point to on a map. With nothing more than shaky AAU footage and a high school game against a 6'3" center, NBA teams were supposed to decide which lottery ticket prospect was worth millions. High school prospects broke everything teams thought they knew about developing NBA talent. And then the lottery ball hit. The year was 1995. For the first time in 2 decades, the NBA was staring down a bold new possibility. The last player to leap straight from high school to the pros had done it back in 1975. And ever since, the league had waited cautiously. A lot had happened since Daryl Dawkins became the first high school prospect in '75. Bird and Magic had collided for the most watched championship showdown in basketball history. Michael Jordan had soared through North Carolina skies to ignite the best career the sport had ever seen. College basketball had become more than a proving ground. It was a chapter in the story of every legend.
But I'm not saying, oh, ain't nothing wrong. You go to college, straight NBA. But some people might not just want to go to college. Some people just, like, in their mind, they thinking they could just go straight to the NBA. Average about 15 to 25 points a game. I mean, hey, but I feel like at best, like, you should get like the people like a signing thing, and whatever you pick the most. Oh, you go straight to the NBA. You're a rookie. You're not getting paid this much as not right now. You ain't starting off big paid with the rookie, but you get some cash. That's what they should have brought the NIL deal before. Then bringing it like 2-3 years ago when Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders and Shallow Sanders was in the college. They should have been brought that back. Like I said, like OBJ's day. Like back when, like, like shout out to my cousin Blue, like I get Blue, they should have brought it back when, they should have brought it back them days, man. Back in the days, like, on for real. Like, those type of eras, like, and stuff like that. But, they should have been brought that back, NIL. They just, like, brought it back and said, you know what? We're going to let these kids get, buy some things. And, like, they should have been did this. They should have just made it, like, more up to this. More up and more advanced to it. Stuff like that. But like I said with the contract, I feel like low-key they needed to put, like, a contract of if you wanted to go to college, you could go to college for, like, 1 to 4 years. Or you could go to 2 years and then go straight to the draft. Or you go straight to the draft, but you have to, you only get to play a few games in the NBA, only a few games. And you got to play in the G League. And you got to play in the G League, too. That's how I would have did it. If I was with Adam Silver, that's what I would have did. I would have did it like that. Went to schools, have buku people like NBA scouts, because like, a lot of people need something for the G League. I mean, have people just go to this school, go to all these high school, Louisiana, this, Maryland, go to here. We drafting people. I would be drafting niggas off of China if that was me. I'm for real. I'm drafting niggas off of China. We gonna teach them niggas how to say English. Shout out to my nigga in China.
Carolina, this rule was silently being rewritten. A tall, skinny kid by the name of Kevin Garnett was doing things with the basketball we had never seen before. From averaging 13 and 14 with 7 blocks as a freshman, to averaging nearly 30 and 20 a game as the youngest Mr. Basketball winner in state history, KG was putting together a high school career impressive enough to transcend how we look at basketball at this level, all without telling his mom. See, the Garnetts were devout Jehovah's Witnesses, devoted to rules and order. But when you're a generational talent, sometimes honesty is not the best policy. Garnett first suited up for his high school basketball team in 8th grade, before his mom put a stop to it. High school is a time to focus. It's a time where your foundation is poured. And to Mama Garnett, this meant that high school was a time for books. As we know, KG didn't exactly listen.
Put it back in. There you go.
As his success grew, the name Kevin Garnett grew bigger than himself, until one figure he fears other than God caught word.
And I'll never forget, I was in the layup line, kind of laying it up, and it was just typical another night against a rival, and it was a big night. And my mom walked in, my little sister, and I just almost pooped on myself, man. It was not good, Jimmy. It was not good.
It took a lot to convince her, but when you play with enough passion to grab the interest of the whole world, even Mama Bear was bought in. One of the greatest careers we've ever seen was almost cut short before it ever began. But right once he was able to put this hurdle behind him, it happened once again. On the last day of school during his junior year, Kevin Garnett found himself caught up in a fight that would almost derail his basketball career. Though he claimed he was just an innocent bystander, Garnett was arrested and charged with second-degree lynching, along with 5 other students, all of whom were black, in what was believed to be a racially fueled conviction after a student suffered a fractured ankle in a confrontation. Just a few years after bowling alley fight put the best high school player in America in Allen Iverson in a prison cell, a schoolyard fight seemed poised to do the same, as KG was facing 20 years behind bars for his alleged involvement.
Dang.
That summer, Garnett was supposed to attend the Nike youth camp in Chicago, but officials hesitated to invite him because of the attention surrounding his charges. After persistence from scouts and his high school coach, he was finally allowed in, and dominated, proving he was the best high school prospect in the entire country. His mother, determined to protect her son, successfully urged the courts to grant him pretrial intervention, a program for first-time offenders that would expunge the charges after he completed 40 hours of community service. After that summer, Garnett and his family moved to Chicago for good, and he enrolled in Farragut Career Academy on the city's west side. Up to this point, the semantics of Garnett's high school career already made this one of the wildest rides in history. But this was really only the beginning, because what followed was one of the most remarkable high school seasons ever played.
Number 34, Kevin Garnett. Jam foul
cleans up all mistakes. He goes to the crowd, says, give me the ball.
Garnett led Farragut to a 28-2 record. He was named Illinois' Mr. Basketball and earned the National High School Player of the Year award from USA Today. He averaged 25.2 points, 18 rebounds, 6.5 assists, and 6.5 blocks per game, while shooting 66.8% from the field. This guy was next-level dominant even for high school standards, but it was how he did it that made it insane. This guy was a freak, first of all. A long, athletic 7-footer with quick, twitchy hands, fantastic coordination, soft touch, and a high IQ. This guy seemed to have no weakness. He'd take the ball coast to coast and spike a shot like a volleyball, all while screaming his head off and leaving the other team with shit in their pants. Garnett was named a McDonald's All-American, won the most outstanding player at the All-American game,
so that's
beating
when
out
they
future
started the
stars like
McDonald's
Vince Carter.
stuff. Because I remember, like, when first time I heard about that, one of my homeboys that got accepted into the McDonald's thing, bro. I was like, bro, I ain't know McDonald's had their own little, something like that. But I was like, damn, that's low key crazy.
And Stephon Marbury, and was honored as one of the 35 greatest All-Americans ever. By the time his senior year ended, Kevin Garnett was no longer a high school phenom. He was an NBA prospect.
Again, player, isn't he? Speaking of elegance, yes.
See, Garnett's high school resume obviously warranted enough demand from the best colleges in the nation, but all of that headbanging on baskets resulted in a 16 ACT score that was considered too low to get into college until he retested and rescored a high enough composite to be accepted into any universities. As that was the most likely path the college selection tour was on. What's widely believed is Garnett was all but committed to the Wolverines after showing up in full Michigan warm-ups in one of his final high school games. But over that offseason, one pickup game would change his life and his perspective forever. Playing in Chicago had its pros, and bumping elbows with players like Isaiah Thomas and Michael Jeffrey Jordan in runs was certainly one of them. And it was in this undocumented run that Isaiah Thomas made up his mind.
Isaiah Thomas come up to me, hey boy, you can go to the league right now. I was like, what? What you talking about, Z? He said, come here, let me tell you what to do.
While also being one of the best points to ever lace them up, Thomas was also the new president of basketball operations for the Toronto Raptors with the 7th overall pick. So, not an empty compliment. Standing at a crossroad with two options, Garnett could declare for the NBA draft in a class thought to be quite top-heavy, with Jerry Stackhouse and Rasheed Wallace out of UNC, as well as Joe Smith and Antonio McDyess. The very unproven and very raw risk that was Kevin Garnett was considered the fool's gold of the draft. He gave it a shot. He declared for the draft, but he kept telling people college was still option A. Whether he actually believed that or was just easing his own nerves, who knows? What we do know is that the minute he walked into those Chicago workouts, everything changed. Picture it. A cramped gym, no hype, no crowd, no teammates, just KG. A basketball and Pistons assistant John Hammond rebounding for him. That's it. No defenders, no scrimmage, just raw talent on display against chairs and the air. You could see it on KG's face. He was nervous. This was the first high schooler in 20 years trying to break into the league. Even with the nerves, he still flashed everything that made him special. The length, the touch, the footwork that looked impossible for a guy touching 7 feet. It was a glimpse, not a complete picture, but one hell of a glimpse. Now, here's the problem. NBA executives had never been asked to gamble like this. The lottery teams rolled in one by one, sat on those metal bleachers, arms crossed, and asked themselves the same question we were all asking back then. Are we really about to take a kid who played prom night basketball 2 months ago with a top pick in the NBA draft? The Warriors and Clippers, the top two, didn't even let the idea breathe. Pass. The Sixers at 3, they were impressed, but they said what everyone was thinking. 1-on-0 workouts are a trap to hide the greater flaws in his game. Washington Bullets GM John Nash thought he might have seen something special, but owner Abe Paulin shut that down immediately. We're not drafting a high school kid. Back then, that was enough. Owner says no, conversation over. And then you had Minnesota at 5, the Timberwolves, a team so irrelevant back then that people forgot they existed at the time. They showed up to Garnett's workout basically to distract other teams, boost the hype for Garnett, maybe make someone panic pick him so a polished college sophomore would fall to them. They weren't even really supposed to be a real contender for Garnett, just a bluff to give them one of the real top 4 players in the draft. Other teams thought about trading up, but those front offices got scared too. Nobody wanted to be the GM who risked their job on a teenager that seemed to be more likely to flop than to hit. Even Isaiah Thomas, running the expansion Raptors at 7, had this wild idea. Draft Garnett, enroll him in college, let him play only in home games, and send him to class when the team went on the road. That was the level of uncertainty we were dealing with. Nobody knew how to handle this kid because for the past 20 years, this wasn't a possibility. And then, June.
Yo, imagine the Warriors actually picked up Kevin Garnett, bro, and Curry came at the right, like, a few moments after that, bro. Oh, yeah, that would have been crazy. That would have been a crazy picked up basketball game. Curry would have won his, rookie year. I'm about to say freshman year. I'm about to say what happened to the sound.
28th, 1995 happened. Kevin Garnett finally got the news he'd been praying for his entire 95 happened. Kevin Garnett finally got the news he'd been praying for his entire senior year. He had scored high enough on the ACT. He was eligible. College was wide open again. But here's the thing. By June 28th, the train had already left the station. He'd worked out, he declared he'd gone all in on the gamble. And in a plot twist nobody predicted, the Timberwolves, yes, the team that came just to bluff, fell in love with what they saw. They picked Kevin Garnett 5th overall. And just like that, for the first time since 1975, the NBA drafted a kid straight out of high school, to the team that to most people might as well have not existed. Up to this date, the Timberwolves were just a terrible expansion team that was yet to crack a measly 30 wins 6 years into their existence. Not only was basketball not the focus in the state of hockey, but due to immediate mismanaging by the Wolves organization, there was no reason to pack the Target Center. Pooh Richardson, Felton Spencer, Luke Longley, give these guys a top 10 pick and these Butterfingers fumbled it. Even the safe pick in Christian Laettner turned into a total flop. And even their best pick in J.R. Rider turned into a drunk-driving, wife-beating maniac of a man. If there was a team to gamble, it would be Minnesota. They had nothing to lose and everything to gain. And in this case, Minnesota and Garnett truly needed each other. But when Kevin Garnett finally got to the league, reality hit fast. All that hype, all that history, and he opened his rookie season on the bench. Bill Blair, the Wolves coach at the time, wasn't gambling on teenagers. He trusted vets. Christian Laettner, Tom Gugliotta, Sam Mitchell, guys who shaved twice a day and actually paid mortgages. KG, he was the wide-eyed 19-year-old trying to navigate an NBA locker room that barely understood what he was. And honestly, early on, you saw flashes, not fireworks. Between those quiet low-minute nights, he dropped something insane out of nowhere, like 19-8 against the Spurs in November. Just enough to make you look around the room like, did anyone else notice that? Garbage time is where he experimented. He'd shoot threes he probably had no business taking. He'd throw passes that made vets raise their eyebrows. He'd grab a rebound, bring it up himself, and suddenly the 7-footer was running point. You could see the outline of a monster, but Minnesota wasn't giving the franchise to a kid. Not yet. There was one guy who saw it early, though. Sam Mitchell. A journeyman, a grinder, a guy who had been with Minnesota since the early expansion days, back when the Timberwolves were basically an idea more than a team. Sam had played with every random role player the Wolves ever signed, but none of them, had the presence, the fire, and the obsession that KG did, even as just a rookie scoring single-digit points. Mitchell would watch the kid in practice. The lanky teenager who didn't just want to win drills, he wanted to humiliate whoever was guarding him. Someone that intense, that smart, that locked in on everything, from defensive angles to the history of the game, you don't see that in 19-year-olds. And while KG was cooking guys behind the scenes, the Wolves season fell apart in public. 20 games in, Kevin McHale fired Blair and handed the team to Flip Saunders, a guy everyone in Minnesota loved, but a first-time NBA coach all the same. Trades started thinning out the front court. Minutes were opening up. Sam Mitchell could have taken them himself, but he didn't. He walked into Flip's office and basically said, "Start the kid. He's already better than me." And Flip did. That's when the switch flipped. KG wasn't fixing the Wolves, nobody was fixing the Wolves, but the glimpses became stretches. The stretches became nights, and he started stacking real performances.
See why it took somebody that had been in the NBA for like, I don't even know how many years to now just say, oh, let the rookie start. You know, he might have a chance. He might average us some points. Like, why it took it so long?
Season highs sprinkled across February, a 33-piece on the Celtics in March. A couple April games that looked like someone accidentally set his sliders to 99. It was the early blueprints of what he'd eventually become, a two-way nightmare who could do everything except calm down. But by the end of the season, he was still just part of the pack. 6 rookies played more minutes. 5 rookies got more Rookie of the Year votes. Hell, the class even had a 31-year-old rookie ahead of him. KG got just one single first place vote. Just one. Maybe that voter saw what Sam Mitchell saw. Maybe they could already feel what was going on. Because within a couple years, Garnett wasn't just starting. He was dragging Minnesota into the playoffs. When Garnett came back for his second year, everything in Minnesota felt like it was finally pointing up for once. And then, draft night hit. The Wolves swung a deal for Stephon Marbury, this electric, blur-fast Brooklyn guard who looked like he was made in a lab to run with KG. It felt like the franchise finally had a direction. A big little duo that could grow together. A foundation. By year 2, the gamble had already paid off. KG came into the NBA as a project, but it felt like he was already the solution. The talent was undeniable. He was the most athletic 4 in the NBA, with a skill set that very few could match. He may not have had an NBA-ready frame, he may have been a guy you can bury a shoulder into, but he made up for it with a psychopathic desire to eat his opponent alive. That's when Garnett stopped being the kid with potential and started becoming Kevin Garnett. He didn't just improve, he detonated. 17 points, 7 boards, playmaking from the elbow like nobody his size should have been allowed to do, swatting shots, jumping passing lanes. He was a chaos engine, and he did it every single night. By February, he was an NBA All-Star at 20 years old, the youngest since Magic Johnson. You could feel the league recalibrate right then. The Wolves weren't a punchline anymore. They had something real. Minnesota made the playoffs for the first time ever. Let begin at 40-42. Houston swept them without breaking a sweat, but nobody gave a flying fuck. You could see what was coming. KG was the piece you could build an empire around. That summer, Minnesota backed up the Brinks truck. 6 years, $126 million. The biggest contract in league history. Some freaked out. Owners pointed to it as the reason the league needed a new CBA, and sure enough, it helped spark the 1999 lockout. But in Minnesota, nobody blinked. They believed in this kid. This kid didn't just revive basketball in Minnesota, he alone became Minnesota basketball. The big ticket wasn't a nickname, it was an economic principle. And then, the story turned. Not on the courts, but off of it. In May of 2000, just hours after celebrating Garnett's birthday, Malik Sealy, KG's teammates and big brother in the league, the guy who dragged him out of his shell, was killed by a drunk driver heading the wrong way on the highway. It wasn't just a loss, it broke something inside the team, and inside Garnett specifically. Malik had taught him how to live like a star, how to embrace the spotlight instead of hiding from it. KG carried him everywhere after that. His number retired, his name inked on KG's arm, written into his shoes, you could see the grief turn into steel. And from that point on, Garnett became something almost unnatural. He dragged mediocre, constantly changing rosters to the playoffs 4 straight years, always running into better teams, always going home early. See, through a series of misfortune and sadly over punishment, the KG Timberwolves era was defined by mismanagement, failing to build around what should have been their championship magnet. But then came 2004, the year KG became the best basketball player on earth. 24 points a night, a league-leading 14 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 stocks, 50% shooting from the field, total command of the game on both ends. Minnesota won 58 games, the most in the NBA. KG was not only respected, but feared and awarded, taking home the MVP award. Not because of hype or narrative, but because anyone with eyes could see he was controlling every variable of the sport. Kevin Garnett was inevitable. He's a 7-footer who ran like a guard, who shot the mid-range like it was a layup, who had footwork that belonged on a dance floor and not in the paint. He was an offensive weapon built in a lab, and somehow, offense wasn't even the point. What made KG unreal was the defensive side of the ball, the switchability that was a decade ahead of its time. He could protect the rim, jump out on wings, chase down guards, blow up actions before they even started. In an era defined by positions, he didn't have one. He just broke the template. From the fool's gold of the draft to cemented...
went flying? Come on.
He just broke the template.
Hey, Kevin Garnett was
From
crazy.
the fool's gold of the draft to cemented in NBA history.
Yo, Kevin
this
Garnett
kid
really
was
low-key
now a
top
legend.
5.
Kevin Garnett in so many ways
Really
was an air
saying this.
definer.
Top
He didn't
5
just elevate a
at least.
franchise, he dragged it into relevance. He reshaped what a big man could be.
The
and
best,
became
I ain't lying to you, Kevin Garnett is the top 5 best power forward of today's days. Like low-key, he's top 5. And if anybody say he's not top 5, then I don't want to hear what
the first high school kid to walk into the NBA and grab the whole league by the nutsack. But don't think the rest of the league was just going to sit around and watch a teenager take over the sport. Because once KG proved the blueprint worked, that talent, obsession, and sweat could replace 4 years of college polish, everything changed. He showed the world the NCAA didn't build stars. The work did. The hours did. The obsession did. And at that exact moment, there was maybe one human being alive who could match that obsession. Or maybe even surpass it.
No, I have decided to skip college and take my talent to the NBA.
A high school phenom out of Lower Merion, Pennsylvania. The kid who studied the game like scripture, worked like he was allergic to rest, and believed he belonged before anyone else did. Kobe Bryant was the son of an NBA player, sure, but he needed success the way most people need oxygen. In high school, he put up a video game like 31, 12, 6, and 4 in almost 4 blocks a night. That wasn't a prospect, that was a problem. And Kobe Bryant became the next high school star to say screw it and declare for the NBA draft. Now here's where the parallels between the big tickets and the Cobster begin. First off, these were two of the biggest competitive psychopaths that basketball has ever produced. If anyone was going to shatter that ceiling, it was going to be guys like this. Dudes who didn't care how sharp the glass was on the way through. Both came from places that weren't exactly NBA pipelines. Both got it out the mud, clawed their way into the spotlights, and blamed nothing on circumstance. But with Kobe, the vibe was different. There was a shine on him, a glitz, a spotlight energy Garnett never had in high school. KG came in like a force in nature. Kobe came in like a celebrity meteor. He was the son of a former NBA player. His personality was bigger than the gyms he played in. He was taking celebrity singers to his prom. Kobe Bryant wasn't forced into the NBA by academics or circumstance. The kid had an above-average SAT of 1080. He could have gone to college anywhere that wanted him. He entered the NBA because he didn't give a damn about what he was supposed to do. He broke the rules simply because they were there to be broken. As only the second player in the modern era to jump straight from high school, all eyes were on Kobe Bryant. Even in a draft class loaded with future stars. Allen Iverson at number 1, Stephon Marbury at number 4, Ray Allen at 5, Peja and Nash at 14 and 15. Amongst all the stars, no one could have imagined that the 13th overall pick would change the game forever. Like Kevin Garnett, a small market team took a gamble when the Charlotte Hornets selected him late in the lottery. But the real story was the giant behind the curtain. The Lakers, set on landing Shaquille O'Neal, had made their starting center, Vlade Divac, expendable. When the Hornets chose Vlade as their future, the Lakers effectively orchestrated the selection of high school's biggest celebrity, a kid whose talent and charisma made the basketball world already watch, to begin his career in the City of Angels.
Jerry West opened up a piece of paper. I haven't seen so many zeros in my life. I signed right away. And the first thing Jerry said to me, he said, look, I'm getting a kid named Kobe Bryant, and you guys going to win multiple championships.
The Lakers had a God squad in 1996, but it wasn't because of Kobe Bryant. At just 18 years and 2 months old, he was already the youngest player in NBA history. Yet, he spent much of his rookie season catching DNPs after garbage time minutes. The beginning of one of the greatest careers in sports started on the bench. Kobe played sparingly, but even in those short stints, he commanded attention. It wasn't the stats, it was the presence. To sit out for 3 nights straight and then explode with a 360 dunk the first chance you get. That wasn't arrogance, it was confidence. And when you combine that confidence with possibly the most relentless work ethic the game had ever seen, it was clear the stars were set to align. He came into the league ready to jump out of the gym and ready to work.
The youngest player in the competition from the Los Angeles Lakers, Kobe Bryant.
The world fell in love with the kid come the 1997 Slam Dunk Contest, when Kobe as an 18-year-old rookie took home the title. It was an up-and-down season for him, but when Kobe Bryant was left in the game with the season on the line, Kobe finished the season lower than you could possibly believe.
About Russell. 5 seconds left. 4. Bryant drives. Pull up. Shot on the way.
And that happened. You know, it happened to the best of us. But you gotta realize this was his moment. This was his built up, and niggas was doubting him. But this was his built up right here.
Bounce, wide right, Van Exel. Fake stock away. Cross court left.
candidate. Kobe didn't need college, he was getting his reps in on one of the best teams in the NBA. That offseason, Kobe grew more than just an afro, but grew his game into being one of the best spark plugs in basketball, an energy guy who could ignite an offense with his dribble penetrations and shot creating off the bench. But that too was just a development period. Come the 2000 season, Kobe was the second best option on the NBA champion Lakers, scoring 22 a night while coexisting with the best big man in the NBA. But even that wasn't enough. By 2001, he was scoring nearly 30 a game. He wasn't just a spark plug, he was already one of the greatest scoring machines basketball had ever seen at the time that he should have been collecting his bachelor's degree. In 2002, Kobe and the Lakers were collecting championship number 3 of the Kobe and Shaq era. Just a little gamble in the middle of the first round turned out to be one of the greatest offensive forces that the game has ever seen. Every single year, Kobe transformed. The improvements were so visible he felt like a new player. He sharpened his sword enough to kill the league, averaging 35 per game at his peak in the mid-2000s. Kobe Bryant solidified what Kevin Garnett had proved. Raw prospects weren't to be feared. They were to be cherished, because when raw meets hard work, the reward was unlimited. And Kobe Bryant surely would not be the last. The risk became normalized, and when NBA scouts saw 6'9" Tracy McGrady coming out of high school as the #1 prospect in high school, looking at him as an NBA-ready player was no longer considered taboo. He was eased into the Raptors rotation, not too fast and not too slow, and by year 3 had a consistent role as one of the best 6 men in the league. He jumped ship to Orlando at just 21 years old and was already the face of his own franchise. He was dropping almost 30 points per game. He felt like a Kevin Durant level scorer before Kevin Durant. He was on billboards, got his own custom shoe, and got recognition as one of the most feared players in the entire NBA. Another high school draftee turned NBA superstar. When everyone around you is cashing in their lottery tickets for fortunes, why not gamble some more? And that's exactly what happens. Jermaine O'Neal might have looked like a bust in his first 4 years with the Portland Trail Blazers coming out of high school, but once he got to Indiana, he proved the world wrong. By year 6, he was the most improved player in the NBA. He was an all-star. He was a dynamic double-double threat, and more anecdotal evidence that college was just for those who wanted an education. Al Harrington at the 25th pick turned out to be a fantastic investment in a high school player. Rashard Lewis was a second-rounder that turned into an all-star. The high school player hype was turning normal prospects into celebrities, but nobody came close to the man who truly defined this era.
LeBron James. LeBron James. Hey.
In 2003, Michael Jordan hung up the J's for the last time, retiring as the undisputed greatest player in basketball history, before a high school kid from Akron, Ohio, entering the league that same year, set out to take his place. LeBron James took the high school prospect era to a whole new level. He wasn't just a kid, he was a legitimate A-list celebrity, the most hyped prospect the game had ever seen up to that point. Scouts, journalists, and fans weren't just watching him play, they were watching history in motion. By the time he stepped onto the St. Vincent St. Mary High School floor in Akron as a 14-year-old freshman in 1999, it was already clear. This wasn't going to be a normal high school career. From day one, LeBron dominated. He led the Fighting Irish to a perfect 27-0 record and a Division III state championship, averaging double digits in points, rebounds, and assists. Yet, even those numbers couldn't capture the aura he carried. Every dribble, every jump, every pass seemed to command the attention of everyone in the gym, as if the spotlight was following him before it even existed. By the sophomore season, the whispers had grown into a full-throated attention. Averaging over 25 points per game, LeBron didn't just dominate, he dismantled opponents with an almost uncanny combination of speed, power, and intelligence. Scouts used to drive hours to see small-town standouts now circled Akron like it was a national pilgrimage. Journalists started showing up, curious onlookers filled gyms, and suddenly, local high school basketball games felt like a preseason for the NBA. This was when the first glimpses of a phenomenon began to emerge. LeBron wasn't just winning games, he was commanding attention, turning high school arenas into stages for a national spectacle. Everything escalated during his junior year. February 18th, 2002, marked a watershed moment. The cover of Sports Illustrated, with the title, The Chosen One. Just like that, LeBron wasn't Akron's best-kept secret, he was the nation's obsession. Games that once drew a few hundred fans now required moving into larger venues. Opponents tried and failed to contain him. His drives to the basket seemed to bend physics. His passes threaded impossibly small windows. His energy electrified the gym. Every highlight reel that emerged, every snippet on national TV, confirmed that high school had never seen anything like this. By senior year, the hype had turned into legend. The 2003 season saw LeBron averaging over 30 points per game, nearly 10 rebounds, and piling up stats in every category imaginable. But it wasn't the numbers that defined him. It was the spectacle. Every game was an event. Tickets sold out instantly. He was selling more tickets than the Cavaliers. Scouts, coaches, and fans across the country packed into Akron to witness history in motion. He wasn't just a player, he was the main attraction. The reason the crowds came, the story the networks wanted to tell. Local games became national phenomenon. Newspapers ran front-page features, and television crews set up cameras in gyms that had never seen such attention. The notion that a high school kid could generate this kind of hype, sell more tickets than a professional team in the same city, it was unthinkable before him. LeBron didn't just elevate his team, he elevated the entire idea of what a high school basketball prospect could be. He became the prototype for the modern phenom. Ready for the world stage, not because of college polish, but because of raw talent, relentless work ethic, and an aura that demanded attention. He merged celebrity.
I wonder how many points he was averaging in high school, though, like low key. He had to average like about 25-ish, 25+-ish every night.
With skill, transforming every game into a spectacle and every highlight into a national story. By the time the NBA draft arrived in 2003, the league wasn't just welcoming a new player, it was stepping into a new era, one where a teenager from Akron had already shown the world how big it could be. By 2003, there was no question about whether a high school kid was worth a draft pick. In fact, it was a race to the bottom of the standings to be first in line.
Hold on, now. I just thought about that, what I said earlier about they should be saying that high schools, it's like people want to go to the draft and stuff. Yeah, I should feel like, you got to play off the bench. You got to miss out a couple games, and you can play off the bench, basically, to develop your stuff and like earn your like strikes during the practice and stuff like that. So yeah, that's what I want to add on to with the NBA stuff.
And when the Cavaliers would see their prayers answered, landing the hometown boy that would put the team on the map, the high school draftee era officially hit its climax. The adjustment period felt non-existent. Top 10 in MVP voting as a rookie, scoring 21 a game. And by year 2, at just 19 years old, LeBron James had a case for the best player on the face of the earth. From that point on, LeBron hasn't missed an all-star game, won 4 MVPs, 4 championships, and somehow outdid even the highest expectations we've ever seen from a prospect. The story almost feels too perfect. From an impoverished neighborhood literally known as the bottom, to a billionaire still playing at a high level 23 years later. The story feels written by Disney and encapsulates the high school era to a T.
Or written by Disney and just what the
does it? The truth is that high school players weren't the get-rich-quick scheme that they were branded as, at least not without failure. See, at the time, we were seeing the first overall pick from 2003 ascend into greatness. We were seeing the 2001 first overall pick descend into a career graveyard. Kwame Brown was the surest example that all that glitters is not gold. As the defensive stud out of high school drafted by Michael Jeffrey Jordan himself, Kwame Brown was the first high school kid ever taken first overall in the draft. Yet, despite putting himself into this circumstance, he was so clearly not at all ready for it. He couldn't manage the jump in competition for how severe it was, nor could he really compete. He was young, he was immature, and he wasn't yet built to handle the pressure that comes with being in this position. Being in the NBA wasn't just about cashing million-dollar checks. Not only could he not perform under the brightest lights or take the criticism for his play, he wasn't even a functioning adult. He didn't know how to do laundry, didn't know how to pay taxes, and ate Popeyes for every meal. His position on draft boards didn't change the truth of the situation. We were still just drafting a kid. The NBA officially shut the door on high school prospects in 2005. The league framed it as a move to protect the players and the product. Teenagers, no matter how talented, weren't always ready for the rigors of professional basketball. Physically, mentally, or emotionally, teams risked investing millions in players who might never pan out, and the league worried that a string of failures could water down the product fans were paying to see. The players' union also had a voice in the decision. Veteran players didn't want rookies straight out of high school taking minutes and roles that they had earned, and collectively, the message was clear. The business of basketball needed structure. In the end, the rule wasn't just about development or maturity, it was a business decision, a way to balance opportunity, risk, and the integrity of the league itself. To this day, the decision remains controversial, with so many wanting to bring back the time that brought us to the game in the first place. The high school to NBA era was so much bigger than just a developmental route. It was a moment in time. An era, a feeling, the sense that the next superstar could be sitting in any classroom in the country. It gave the power to the people before it was stripped away, but not before it left us with some of the greatest talents the game has ever seen. So was the high school era the solution? Well, not exactly. Kobe Bryant and Kevin Garnett beat the odds because they were some of the hardest working men on the planet. LeBron James could have stepped into the NBA at 16 and made an impact. But for every success, there were those the leap crushed. Sebastian Telfair never got the chance to grow into his potential or grow the hell up. Josh Smith's raw talents never fully sharpened, and Kwame Brown's hype outpacing his readiness for the spotlight. This era didn't create stars. It exposed who could survive. And still, there was magic in the chaos. The idea that the next superstar could be sitting in any high school gym made the NBA feel alive, unpredictable, and a little dangerous. Teens gambled on teenagers like they were lottery tickets, and sometimes the payoffs were staggering, other times catastrophic. The league wasn't about dynasties or legacy battles, it was about the thrill of the unknown. The league wasn't dominated by a team like the Chicago Bulls that felt seamless, and there wasn't a Showtime Lakers squad that checked every box. Chaos became the norm for even the best teams during this time. Shooting percentages were at an all-time low, system play was overlooked for personalities to shine, and for better or for worse, basketball got a little ugly. But maybe that's why we fell in love with it. The high school to NBA era wasn't flawless. It may not have even—
I feel like they should bring it back, though. Like, low-key, that's just me, though. I feel like they should bring it back. But, hey, if y'all enjoyed the video, make sure like, comment, subscribe, follow on social media. They pop on the screen. See y'all when I see y'all. Love y'all to the bottom of my heart. And we're on the road to 5. I see.